Hey guys, welcome back to 428 Shibuya Scramble. This is TJ, your gamer girl, signing on. So, last episode, we continued with Stanley and Tatano, and basically found out that the girl who we've been calling Kanan may actually be Alphard. It's just stressful. And what about Stanley then? Is he on his way here? Who knows, Tatano said. At that, Kanan lowered her gun. She seemed disturbingly full of confidence. Kanan flipped open her cell phone. Who do you think you're calling? Tatano adjusted his aim, pointing his gun at the young woman's head. Look, I'm going to call Hitomi and have her clear up these suspicions you have about me. We don't have time for this right now. Wouldn't you agree? Kanan stared back at Tatano, a cell phone in hand, waiting for his reply. We know from what Stanley assumed that if she calls Hitomi, bomb's gonna go boom. Stop. This is the sort of nonsense we don't have time for right now. Kanan shook her head, then put her phone away. If you really are Alphard, then you don't actually need to hack the password, Tatano said. I'm guessing you've already gotten it from Tonica, which means you'll be able to get your hands on the antiviral as soon as you get into that lab. Kanan didn't so much as flinch. The only thing stopping you is the antiviral still in Hitomi Osowa's body. Possessing the antiviral and having a monopoly on it are two very different things. You want to eliminate Hitomi. That's why you lured her down to the scramble. Am I wrong? If that's true, then how am I planning on getting rid of her? Using a so-called substitute Alphard or something? Yes, that's right. Tatano couldn't be certain, but he couldn't think of any other way. Kanan let out a laugh. You don't know the first thing about Alphard, she said. Alphard keeps the outlines of his plans blurred, so that his deliberate actions just get lumped in with the coincidences. That's the crux of all his plans. That's how he's able to pull off his schemes by himself. He'd never solicit help from a third party. The words seemed like they were Kanan's, but it also seemed like they were Alphard's. With his gun at the ready, Tatano got out his phone and called Kano. The young detective was quick to pick up. Detective Tatano, what's going on? You need to get Hitomi Osowa to safety immediately. Alphard isn't trying to get at her blood. He wants her eliminated. What? Hurry! Yes, sir. Once he'd gotten Kano's confirmation, Tatano hung up. I should have... Oh, no, the jump is still there, just in case. And now your little plan has been foiled, Tatano said. Kanan snorted. Has it now? If I really am Alphard, then all I need to do is eliminate you right here and now. Right here, and head right on into that lab. Even without her gun raised, she still radiated intimidation. Tatano might have had her at gunpoint, but he could feel the threat of her presence like a gathering storm. Eliminate me, he said, doing his best to mask any sign of weakness. You're the one who doesn't have your gun ready. I don't need my gun, Kanan said simply. And why is that? Because you can't shoot me. What's that supposed to mean? Kanan glared sharply at Tatano. Her look pierced him like a blade. Then she quirked an unsettling smile and took a step closer to him. Don't move, he warned. Tatano said, I don't want to pull this trigger if I don't have to. Yeah, we want Alphard arrested, not killed. It's not you don't want to pull that trigger. It's that you can't pull the trigger. Kanan took another step closer. You're still traumatized from that time you let your friend's wife die. How do you know about that? Tatsuno was shaking now, his aim wavering. I heard you talking with the younger detective up on that rooftop. I was right. She had been there. Let's test my theory out. Kanan pointed her index finger at her own heart. If you think I'm Alphard, then shoot me. Right here. The corner of her mouth's twisted up. You can do it, can't you? She's got the Bombay, doesn't she? Tatsuno's gun shook all the more. You're afraid to pull the trigger. It was as if her words were a spell that she was casting over him. You can hardly even stand the thought of pointing your gun at someone. Tatsuno shook his head violently back and forth, but he couldn't get Kanan's words out of his head. Just keep Maria safe. That's your job. That's what Stanley had said. And he was right. Don't hesitate. Don't think. This was Alphard. Sadistic terrorist. He just needed to trust himself and pull the trigger. It was a horrid, visceral sound. Gastric fluids rushed up Tatsuno's throat, then pitched forward into his knees and vomited on the spot. The sensation of pulling the trigger. The recoil in the wake of the shot. It was exactly as it had been all those years ago. He never wanted to fire a gun again. At this point, he'd probably never be able to. Where are you even aiming? The voice had come from right in front of him. He looked up to see Kanan standing right there. His heart began hammering like mad. This was the end. He braced himself for oblivion, even as his body cried out to survive. Yep. Let's continue from Kano. Since it... For Osoa picked up. It's Kano. I have the password. Are you serious? Osoa blurted in shock. Here, let me give it to you. You ready? Yes! 59FBAI4QL1. As he passed along the alphanumeric sequence, Kano kept his eyes on Palmer. The man stared back at him with an expression of bitter defeat. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. Then at last, Osoa's excited voice came through. That did it! It opened! The lock opened! Kano let out a deep breath of utter relief. Palmer snorted. You're really satisfied with catching me and saving the life of one girl? I suppose it's the Japanese way to forget the pain that's been visited upon you. But it's not over. The bloodshed will continue. All over the world. Women, children, the elderly, innocent, all will bleed. Because absolute justice is on our side. Is that right? Damn, Kyle! You finally got to punch someone! Kano drove his fist into Palmer's face. There was no such thing as absolute justice. It was that kind of blind faith that kept the world in conflict. Well, that sure is quite the mess. Whirling around in surprise, Kano saw Kuze standing there. Director Kuze! He bowed his head apologetically. He may have apprehended the criminal mastermind, but only because he'd ignored a direct order to place Maria under quarantine. I'm sorry, sir, but Save the apology, Kuze interrupted. You're the one who solved this case. You did good, kid. Once again, Kano bowed, this time even more deeply. Oh, and one more thing, Kano. Yes, sir? Sasayama has regained consciousness. I thought you'd like to know. Sasayama? They were able to save him? I got a call from the hospital. Looks like he's going to pull through. That's great! Really great news! Tears of relief came to Kano's eyes. And if Oso was able to get the lock on the lab open, he should also have been able to get Maria the antiviral without any further difficulty. Kano dragged Palmer to his feet and undid the handcuffs from his own wrist, using it to properly bind his captive. The metal ring snapped shut with a soft, satisfying click. Palmer limply hung his head. It was over. It was all finally over. It really had been quite a day, Kano reflected. Beyond all the challenges he'd faced, he had come face to face with his own shortcomings. Now he knew what a long way he had to go to be the man he wanted to be. But at least he learned what it truly meant to be a detective. Kuze was muttering to himself nearby. I mean, you don't even look alike, but... The director shook his head and cleared his throat. You know, Kano, for a second there, you looked just like Tatano. Really, sir? Kano smiled, fussing sheepishly with his hair. Kuze's words were the finest praise he could have asked for. Someday, he hoped he really might be a detective like Tatano. No, he decided. He would be. And until then, he'd never give up on that dream. It might be a long, long road, but he'd walk it. Kano looked up into the sky. The neon lights of the city shone from all over. This was the same old Shibuya that it always was, but one that he looked at now with new eyes. When's that call from Tatano gonna come in? Oh, and there's the keep out. Okay, so let's break the keep out. This was the same old Shibuya. His cell phone rang. Tatano's name appeared on the incoming call display. Kano quickly picked up. Detective Tatano, what's going on? You need to get Hitomi Osawa to safety immediately. Alphard isn't trying to get at her blood. He wants her eliminated. What? Tatano wasn't making any sense. Alphard Palmer had already been arrested. The threat was over now. Hurry! Tatano barked. Yes, sir. Detective! Achi caught off suddenly. He was standing with Hitomi and the others near the statue of Hachiko. Detective! That's not the real Alphard! He's a fake! A fake? Yeah, I just got a call from Stanley. Kano didn't want to believe it. If this Alphard was just a decoy, that meant the real culprit was elsewhere, still on the loose. Achi's voice rang in desperation. He said the real Alphard is planning to get rid of Hitomi and the fake with some kind of bomb. To get rid of Hitomi? I lined up with what Tatano had just called to warn him about. Must be true then. Once again, Kano tensed. A bomb. But where? Give me the Explosive Ordnance Division, someone squawked. We've got an emergency here. It was Kuze, practically screaming into his cell phone. We're at the Grand Miles Light Station. Hurry! The director started running toward the precinct, still shouting as he wove his way through the crowd. Kano felt himself starting to panic. If Hitomi and Palmer were the targets, the bomb had to be nearby. He stormed over to his captive. Okay, where's the bomb? He demanded. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb with me. I already told you the password, Palmer said. What point would there be in keeping things from you now? He had a point. And if he had known about the existence of the bomb, he'd kept it a secret so far. Not to mention, he wouldn't have been so threatened with the fact of bursting into flames. Getting him to reveal it now would not be easy. Kano decided he'd just have to go look for it. He took a deep breath and tried to think logically. If he were Alphard, what would he do? How could he ensure that he'd eliminate both Hitomi and the fake Alphard at the same time? Where would he plant a bomb in order to pull that off? On the fake, on Hitomi, in a minivan. I am actually not sure. I'm going to switch to Achi. See if I can get that keep out on Stanley done. Throw it. Catch it. Spinning around in the midst of the chaos, Achi saw Susumu catch one vial deftly. Many of the other gang members appear to have done the same. There's one more, over there! The desperate shout had come from Hitomi. Oh, whoops. She spotted a vial sailing in a high arc away from all the SOS members. Damn it! Achi launched into motion, ignoring the searing pain in his leg, but the falling vial was so far away. Yeah! It was now or never. He threw himself into a head-first slide. Nice catch! The gang members broke out into cheering and applause. Achi got to his feet and looked around, but saw no sign of either Kano or Alphard. Hey, Achi, if you're looking for the detective. Susumu gestured with his chin. Achi looked and saw Kano far away the scramble chasing after Alphard. Soon, both men were lost in the crowd. Achi would have charged in pursuit as well, but his wounded leg made that impossible. Get him, detective. He murmured under his breath. We're counting on you. What? Okay, There we go. What? There we don't go, actually. No. There we go. Eventually, Achi spotted Kano on the far edge of the crowd. The detective pumped his fist in victory. It looked like he got an Alphard to cough up the password. Thank goodness. Finally, some really good news. Now Hitomi and Maria were both safe. A surge of relief ran through Achi's body. Unexpectedly, his cell phone rang. It was Stanley. And that's... Another? Keep out? Mr. Stanley, what's going on? I was right at the keep out. Oh boy. Oh man. Please don't let me be too late, he muttered to himself as he waited for the call to connect. Achi was quick to pick up. Mr. Stanley, what's going on? How'd the negotiations go? The detective called Alphard. Achi replied happily. He got him to give up the password, and I think he's called the folks at the lab. Does that mean the case is closed then? No, not yet. Right now, I need you to do exactly as I tell you. There was a pause before Achi responded. Why? What's going on? If you want to save Hitomi, then shut up and listen. Stanley snapped. Alright, tell me what to do. First, you need to power down Hitomi's cell phone. Turn off your phone? What for? I'm pretty sure that there's a bomb somewhere near your location. Stanley tried to keep his voice as calm and steady as possible. A bomb? Achi's voice squeaked into a falsetto. The guy that Kano just apprehended is a decoy. The real Alphard is planning to eliminate Hitomi and the false Alphard at the same time. Stanley didn't have time to explain that Kanan was Alphard. Besides, it would only confuse the matter all the more at this point. Listen, first, turn off that cell phone. Then, go and look for the bomb. Okay, got it. Achihana. Hopefully, the team at the Scramble would be able to pull through. Now Stanley needed to focus on capturing Alphard. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel. His emotions were coming on far too strongly for him to keep them in check. In the back of his mind, Stanley thought about the last he'd ever seen Frank. There had been nothing left of his brother but a bloodied hand reaching out from beneath the rubble. Even since that day, since that very moment, Jack Stanley had sworn revenge upon Alphard. He would never forget the rage he'd felt at having what was left of his family taken from him. Hey Jack, once this is all tidied up, I'm gonna need a drink. Let's you and me have a beer together. Sure, you got it. Stanley sprang into action, leading away the throng of panicking civilians. But all the while, he couldn't help but worry about Frank. We've got almost 30 minutes left. He'll be fine. Backup will definitely be here in time. He did his utmost to reassure himself, but still his doubts gnawed. When the bomb squad descended upon the area, clad in their protective gear, Stanley shot a look at his watch. He felt a surge of relief. Only about 15 minutes had passed. There was still plenty of time for them to deactivate the bomb with their liquid nitrogen. Thank God. Frank's going to be alright. But he got no chance to relish that thought. There was an ear-splitting boom as a powerful shockwave shook the area. Stanley whirled back around, staring in horror at the place that his brother had been. Nothing remained but a mound of rubble. A later investigation would reveal that the timer on the bomb's exterior had been a mere ruse. The explosive had never linked to a timer at all. Instead, it had been detonated via remote control. Alphard had deceived them, using a visible timer to lull them into a false sense of security. Stanley had managed to save many lives that day, to be sure, but it had come at the cost of his own brother's life. Had he really made the best decisions he could have made? He was still asking himself the same question, over and over, even now. But no matter how much he blamed himself, it wouldn't bring Frank back. If there was one thing he could still do for his brother, it was getting revenge on Alphard with his own hands. Stanley had been in constant pursuit of Alphard ever since. He would stoop to any level for information without remorse. His opponent was someone who would do anything at all to achieve a goal. It only made sense for him to do the same. At some point, he stopped even hesitating to get his own hands dirty. He would charge headlong to any danger if he sensed Alphard's presence. Even his own life was a price he was willing to pay in the name of vengeance. He could never hope to latch his jaw onto his quarry's throat if he behaved like prey himself. He must be the greater predator. He would cast aside his humanity, would become a blood-stained beast if that improved his chances at the hunt. For the hunt was all that mattered. Pursuit of Alphard had become his only purpose. So it had been for the past 2 years. Now those years flashed through Stanley's mind in the blink of an eye. As he came back into the moment, he marveled at his own ferocity, and at the depth of the wound he'd suffered. If I do get my revenge, what would Frank think? Yeah, let's be honest, revenge is never the answer. It's not going to bring anyone back. When Stanley pictured his younger brother, it wasn't with a smile on his face. The realization gave him pause. In the end, killing Alphard wouldn't bring his brother back. That went without saying. But although he could see now that revenge was an absurd goal, his heart still churned deep and dark with resentment. The Okashi Pharmaceutical Lab finally came into view. A large billow of black smoke was rising from one of the building's windows. Let me try this one. Well, if he hadn't fired back then, maybe Kotane would still be alive. Your friend's entire life was changed because of you. Why hadn't he tried to talk the culprit down? He knew the reason why. Because he loved Kotane. He'd still loved her, even after she'd become Daisuke's wife. His desire to be the one who saved her had warped his sense of judgment when things had come down to the wire. Tateno, do you not enjoy being with me? There was a forlorn look on Kotane's face. It wasn't that he didn't enjoy being with her. Her very presence soothed him. But the more serious their relationship had grown, the more it tore at Tateno's heart. The truth was that he didn't really know what happiness was, and so he was incapable of making someone else happy. If it were possible, he'd want Kotone to be smiling, always. And that meant her being with someone other than him. I think it would be best if we stopped seeing each other. Tateno blurted out the words bluntly, and Kotone's face fell. He hadn't broken up with her because of any lack of feeling for her. Rather, the impulse had actually sprung out of his pursuit for human warmth, and this growing fear of losing it. He'd just been so uneasy. More than anything, he'd been afraid that he wanted too much love and affection from Kotone. Bit by bit, Tateno lowered his gun, his hand ever more unsteady. His heart was on the cusp of breaking, and still Kanan continued with her diabolic whispering. You can go ahead and kill me, but if it turns out I'm not Alphard, what then? Now she stared at Tateno with an almost pitiable look. You have once more done something that you can never undo. Something I can never undo. Tateno repeated the words dully, feeling himself forced into a trance. That's right. Could you ever accept that? No, I couldn't. Couldn't make the same mistake. His whole body felt like it might fall apart. He wanted to drop to the ground and curl up in a ball like a child. And that's why you can't shoot anyone. Can't shoot anyone. As Tateno muttered the words, Kano's face appeared in the back of his mind. I can! Tears fell from Kano's eyes as he looked down the barrel of his gun at Tateno. He'd become a detective who didn't lose sight of what he was supposed to protect, no matter the situation. Tateno had nearly forgotten. Nearly abandoned his inward promise to be a detective worthy of that final salute Kano had given him. He brought his gun back up to bear. Don't be absurd, Kanan mocked. You can't shoot anyone. Actually, I can. The words creaked dryly from Tateno's throat. When there's something I'm supposed to protect, I can shoot. The memory of Kano weeping but taking aim had given him the resolve he needed to face down an opponent who ought to have terrified him. I learned that from someone who was terrible at his job. Kanan's eyes went cold. Immediately, she lifted her gun again. Once more, their eyes locked, sparks of hostility crackling between them. But almost immediately, Tateno could sense the difference in skill between his opponent and himself. The young woman radiated a deadly aura. The force of her stare was like a knife pressed to his throat. She had borne witness to carnage and bloodshed, the likes of which he couldn't even imagine. He couldn't win this. She would kill him, guaranteed. Tateno braced himself for death, never taking his eyes off Kanan's. If nothing else, he needed to buy time for Kano to get to that password. But could he do that given the opponent he faced? Yes. Somehow he would do it. As a detective. As a man. Even if he had to give his own life to succeed. Even if he couldn't come close to making up for the sins he had committed. I'm gonna switch over to Jack. Let me switch over to Jack. Finally, Okushi Pharmaceutical Laboratory came into view. There were 2 people standing outside the front gate. It was Tatano and the girl who was pretending to be Kanan. Each had a gun drawn on the other. Somehow, Stanley had made it in time. He pulled his car up alongside them and reached down into the gun sleeve concealed beside the seat. He pulled out a 44 caliber Desert Eagle, one of the most powerful semi-automatic guns in the world. Handguns. His orders were to apprehend Alphard. The smaller Glock on his shoulder holster might be better suited to that end. Even so, he opted for the Desert Eagle. Getting out of the car, he started pacing toward the young woman. Stanley? That was Tatano. Tatano glanced over at him, his face pale. Stanley gave a silent nod in reply. He could see a hint of a smile on the girl's face. Probably a smile of overconfidence. Well, her brazenness would get her no further. I got in touch with the others, Stanley said. Told them to turn off Hitomi Osawa's cell phone. He could see your eyes react. I imagine that by now they've also managed to deal with the bomb you planted on your decoy. On the Is it actually on the decoy? Because that... And of course they managed to bypass the lock inside the lab. You know what this means? Your little plan has failed. Completely. Stanley could see the little girl's stare sharpen. He'd chased Alphard all around the world, only to arrive here at last in this little island nation. It had been a long, long journey, and he'd spent a long time suffering. Now, both the journey and the suffering would be over. We meet at last, Alphard. Oh, this is getting good. We're almost at the end. We have to be almost at the end. We have to be nearing it. I'm not ending this video until we're at the end. Let's continue with Achi. Mr. Stanley, what's going on? How did the negotiations go? Achi quickly filled him in on the good news. The detective caught Alphard. He got him to give up the password, and I think he's called the folks at the lab. Does this mean the case is closed then? No, not yet. Right now, I need you to do exactly as I tell you. For a moment, Achi's head swam. Is this over yet? Why? What's going on? If you want to save Hitomi, then shut up and listen, Stanley barked. Alright, tell me what to do. First, you need to power down Hitomi's cell phone. Turn off her phone? What for? Was Stanley serious or just messing with him? I'm pretty sure that there's a bomb somewhere near your location. The bomb? Achi's voice squeaked into a falsetto. And that guy that Kano just apprehended is a decoy. The real Alphard is planning to eliminate Hitomi and the false Alphard at the same time. Will they eliminate both Hitomi and his own decoy? Why would he do that? And if the guy they just captured was a fake, then who was the real Alphard? He couldn't wrap his head around it. The more he tried, the more his thoughts became a jumbled mess. Listen, first, turn off that cell phone. Then, go and look for the bomb. Okay, got it. Right now, he just needed to do what Stanley told him to. He didn't have time to make sense of the situation. Hanging up, he called out to Hitomi. Hitomi, you have to turn off your cell phone. She stared back at him, too confused to act. Look, just hurry up and do it. Right, okay. Pulling her phone from her pocket, she switched the power off. Then, Achi turned in Kano's direction. Detective! He shouted. Kano was looking toward him, seemingly already aware that something was amiss. Detective, that's not the real Alphard! He's a fake! A fake? Kano looked understandably shocked. Yeah, I just got a call from Stanley. He said the real Alphard is planning to get rid of both Hitomi and the fake with some kind of bomb. Kano hurriedly turned back to fake Alphard and began a fresh barrage of questions. Meanwhile, Achi's mind was racing again. If the bomb was meant to wipe out both Hitomi and the imposter, it would have to be pretty powerful, so it couldn't be anything particularly small. Where could the bomb be hidden then? Achi scanned the area, but didn't spot any place that seemed plausible. Kano made his way over to Hitomi. Pardon me, miss. I just need to search you real quick. Wait, had Hitomi been planted with a bomb? Achi, keep an eye on this guy, Kano said. If he tries anything funny, feel free to punch his lights out. Okay, sure thing. Achi took up watch over the decoy Alphard. The guy was handcuffed, but was still a diabolical terrorist. Achi knew he couldn't let his guard down for a moment. He kept a close eye on the fake, ready to knock him cold at the first sign of mischief. Meanwhile, Kano continued to search Hitomi. Did you buy all of the jewelry and accessories you're wearing yourself? Yes, most of them. The ring I got from my sister. What about your clothes? Oh, I bought them just this afternoon. The top I was wearing before it got torn. I see. Then, as Kano continued to search, he cried out in sudden realization. Hitomi, you have to give me your cell phone. It's a bomb! Hitomi hurriedly pulled out the cell phone and handed it to Kano. Achi looked on in alarm as he realized the detective was going to turn the phone on. Oh, shit, okay. That's another bad ending. Why not? The detective quirked into quizzical eyebrow. I don't know, it's just what Stanley said. He told me to make sure that her phone stayed off. The blood drained visibly from Kano's face. Quickly pulling out his own cell phone, Kano dialed up the police, launched into a discussion involving a lot of cop jargon that made no sense to Achi. But one thing seemed clear, Hitomi's phone itself might be the bomb. But wait. Achi found himself doubting the phone bomb idea. Okay, I need to switch to Kano. Because what Stanley said might have been actually true. There's no place he could have possibly planned it in. He began to pat Palmer down carefully. Achi! Check the case! Hurry! He gestured to the attaché case Palmer had been carrying. Don't move. Kano searched through his captive's jacket and the pockets of his pants. But he came up with nothing. Perhaps Alphard had fitted the bomb into the man's watch or the belt? Stop this. I'm not carrying a bomb. Shut your mouth! But Kano couldn't spot anything suspicious about the watch or the belt either. He clenched his jaw in frustration. Did Palmer really not have it after all? Detective! It was Achi. He looked alarmed. Kano hurried over to him, dragging Palmer along. When he looked inside the attaché case, Palmer's face went pale. No, can't be. Alphard. Why? His voice was hoarse with betrayal. Then he abruptly broke into a stilted laughter. Trusting someone really does make you blind. Such a simple, childish ruse. And it went right under my nose. Palmer looked over at Kano. We need to get out of here immediately, he said. That right there is C4. A high-yield plastic explosive used by the military. And that's enough to blow this whole area to smithereens. A chill ran up Kano's spine. Do not let this man go, he said, handing Palmer over to Susumu. Got it, just leave it to us. Susumu signaled to his followers, who immediately dumped Palmer unceremoniously on the ground. Kano carefully inspected the inside of the attaché case. Achi had found a false bottom in the case. The space beneath it was indeed packed full of plastic explosives. Set within it was what looked like a detonator. Kano didn't know much about bomb disposal. He'd only been taught the very basics during his police academy training. Nonetheless, something drew his eye. A microphone. There was a parabolic microphone attached to the detonator. In all likelihood, the detonator had been set to go off in response to some sort of sound. Hey, detective? Is that thing going to explode or not? Achi's voice was shaky. It looks like it's sound activated, but it hasn't gone off just from having people talking nearby. That means it must be set to explode in response to a specific sound trigger. A specific sound, huh? Achi took a moment to think. That's it! It must be Hitomi's ringtone! That's why Stanley had me power her cell phone off. So that means we're safe then? Hitomi asked. It's not going to explode anymore, right? Kano had to fight back any feelings of relief. They couldn't forget that this was Alphard they were dealing with. Assuming they were safe would be a dangerous mistake. Carefully lifting up the detonator, Kano spotted another cable connected to the bomb. As calmly as he could, he tried to remove the plastic explosive from the attaché case. He quickly discovered that the thinly stretched sheet of plastic explosive was only an intermediate layer, concealing a second false bomb. A small timer had been set beneath it. It's not just a sound trigger. Kano's mouth had gone dry. His voice came out as a whisper. The bomb has also been fitted with a countdown timer. Stanley had been right on the mark. The ringtone of Hitomi's cell phone would trigger the explosion. That way Alphard could eliminate both her and his stooge, Palmer, at the same time. But just in case the sound trigger were discovered, as a backup, the bomb had also been rigged to explode after a set time. Kano speed dialed his boss. Director Kuse, where's the bomb squad? 151, 150. Not even 2 minutes left to go. It didn't look like the explosive ordnance unit would make it in time. Kano scanned the area, weighing his options. He noticed Achi standing right beside the bomb case. Achi, he called out, leave that thing and get out of here. But Achi didn't move. No way. He sat down, the attaché case cradled in his arms. Achi, what the hell are you doing? I'm not going anywhere until everyone's made it to safety. Detective, you need to get these people someplace safe right away. Clear the area first, then I'll go. But there's no way I can do that. Damn it, don't you want to save these people too? Kano bit his lower lip in frustration. Achi was right. If the bomb went off amidst the crowd like this, there would be no telling how many casualties there'd be. He needed to do whatever he could as quickly as possible. Get back! Everyone, get back! Achi shouted at the top of his lungs. There's a bomb! Everyone, get out of here! Just run! Following his lead, Kano started directing nearby civilians to safety. Hitomi, Susumu, and the others added their voices to his. There's a bomb! Everybody run! Get away as fast as you can! Please, you all have to get out of here! But the crowd was listening to their warnings. On the contrary, some people hurried closer to see what the commotion was all about. Okay, there was a choice that Achi needs to make that isn't going to cause this to happen. Hey. Then his eyes happened to alight on the attaché case and destroy the decoy discarded. Could it be? No sooner had his suspicions been aroused than he heard Kano call out to him. Achi, check the case! Hurry! He hurriedly opened the attaché case and searched the interior. But the only thing inside were pieces of medical equipment like tubes and syringes and the like. There was nothing that remotely looked like a bomb. Still, where else could the bomb possibly be hidden? Damn it! He had to find the explosive, and soon. He took another hard look at the case. I'll flip it over? Achi lifted the case up high and flipped it upside down. But as he was about to throw it, he heard a faint metallic sound. Quickly, he lowered the case again. He was certain the noise had come from inside. Once more, he opened the case and looked inside. But still, he saw nothing of note. He tossed the medical equipment aside and slowly tilted the case from side to side. Although it looked empty, there was a distinct sound of something metal sliding back and forth. Hold on, could it be? Achi tugged at the case's inner lining, quickly tearing it free. When he looked behind it, his eyes went wide. A thin layer of something that resembled white clay had been affixed inside the cover of the case. Several wires connected to a small electronic device. This was it. The bomb really was inside the attaché case. Here it is, he shouted to Kano. I found it! Kano hurried over, bringing his captive with him. There, Mr. Palmer, take a look. When he saw what was inside the attaché case, the fake Alphard went pale. Oh, it can't be. Alphard, why? His voice was hoarse with betrayal. Then he abruptly broke into stilted laughter. Trusting someone really does make you blind. Such a simple, childish ruse. And it would run under my nose. The fake Alphard Palmer looked over at Kano. We need to get out of here immediately, he said. That right there is C4. A high-yield plastic explosive used by the military. And that's enough to blow this whole area to smithereens. Blow the whole area to smithereens? Achi pictured Shibuya reduced to a blasted ruin. Meanwhile, Kano frantically began searching the inside of the attaché case. A microphone, Kano muttered. Hey, detective, is that thing going to explode or not? Achi tried and failed to keep his voice from wavering. It looks like it's sound-activated, but hasn't gone off just from having people talking nearby. That means it must be set to explode in response to a specific sound trigger. Specific sound, huh? Now Achi understood Stanley's instructions. That's it! It must be Hitomi's ringtone! That's why Stanley had me power off her cell phone. So that means we're safe, then, Hitomi asked. It's not going to explode anymore, right? Maybe, but I wouldn't bet our lives on it. Kano continued his examination of the case. He carefully loosened the bomb and cables, pulling them away from the lid of the case. The sight made Achi's heart leap. Then Kano went stock still, as if caught in a hungry predator's gaze. It's not just a sound trigger. The detective's voice was a raspy whisper. The bomb also has been fitted with a countdown timer. Achi could see the timer now. It had been planted underneath the plastic explosive. His blood ran cold. Director Kuze, where is that bomb squad? While Kano made a desperate call to the police, Achi picked up the attaché case and peered inside. The digital timer was steadily ticking down the seconds. Achi scanned the nearby area. There were too many people around the scramble. Hitomi was there. Susumu was there. Several more of his old pals. Along with a bunch of innocent bystanders. The people are the lifeblood, Achi reminded himself. The blood that coursed through the body that was the city. Like cells, they brought life to the city he so loved. And Achi wanted to be one of the red, or was it white, blood cells of Shibuya. Achi! Kano called out. Leave that thing and get out of here! No way. Achi sat down, cradling the case in his arms. Achi, what the hell are you doing? I'm not going anywhere until everyone's made it to safety. Detective, you need to get these people someplace safe right away. Clear the area first, then I'll go. But there's no way I can do that. Damn it, don't you want to save these people? Achi snapped. Kano bit his lower lip. Hitomi wrapped her arms around Achi from behind. Achi, don't do this. Hitomi, you need to get out of here too. Why? Why are you acting so crazy? Tears blurred her words, and he could feel her trembling against him. Doesn't matter, just get as far away as you can. No, I'm not leaving you. After the day they'd spent together, Achi knew full well that telling Hitomi something once wasn't enough to get her to listen. That stubbornness was one of many things that made her so amazing in his eyes. Hitomi. Achi clasped one of her hands tightly. Please, this is the one favor I will ever ask you. His voice came out oddly soft and gentle. Alright, she told him. But let me just say one thing first. There's still so many things I want to talk to you about. So much more that I want to know about you. So please, Achi, don't you die on me. Hey, don't worry. Once everyone's made it to safety, I'll clear out of here right away. Hitomi squeezed his hand, then got up and silently hurried away. Susumu, you and SOS start getting people out of the area. Yeah, alright. Susumu turned away and spurred the gain into motion. Then for an instant, Achi's eyes met Kano's. Achi gave a tiny nod and looked down at the timer. 119. 118. Get back! Achi shouted at the top of his lungs. Everybody get back! There's a bomb! He held the attaché case tight against himself as he continued shouting. He ran his voice raw, trying to warn the crowd away. Everyone get out of here! Just run! Following his lead, Kano started directing nearby civilians to safety. There's a bomb! The detective shouted. Everybody run! Get away as fast as you can! Suzumu waved his arms emphatically. Please, Hitomi said. You all have to get out of here! But the crowd didn't heed their warnings. At last, apparently deciding the time was up, Kano turned back to Achi. Achi, that's enough! Leave the bomb and let's go! He could hear Suzumu and Hitomi shouting as well. There's no time left, man! Achi, come on! 57, 56. The way Palmer talked about this bomb, it sounded like a pretty dangerous one. It might be powerful enough to blow up the entire intersection. And there were still so many people nearby. There was no chance they'd be able to get safety in the few dozen seconds that remained. Achi needed to minimize the force of the blast as much as possible. He cradled the bomb more tightly to his chest, huddling over it. What are you doing? Come with us! Hurry! Screamed Kano. Oh, okay. Give me a sec. There's a keep out. The keep out should be soon. But Achi only clutched the bomb more tightly. What are you doing? Kano screamed. Come with us, hurry! Still, Achi would not move. Susumu's face went pale. Wait, Achi, your leg! What about my leg? Earlier, when you kicked that steel pipe. What the heck? Finally, Kano understood. It wasn't that Achi didn't want to move. He couldn't move. And so he decided to get all heroic and use himself as a human shield to minimize the impact of the explosion on everybody else. That idiot, Kano muttered. If his leg was busted, why didn't he say so? How'd he even make it this far? Excuse me. There couldn't be much time left. If Kano rushed to help him now, he might not make it to safety before the bomb went off. He had to make a decision. Kano ran for Achi anyway. He couldn't just abandon him. Achi was being an idiot. He wanted to sacrifice himself for the greater good, but Kano wasn't going to let him do that. To have someone else be your shield. To have them up and give their life for yours. Achi had no idea just how hard that would be on the people he left behind. Even if it did save their lives. And until he was capable of comprehending that, Kano wasn't going to just let this kid die. He reached to Achi in a matter of moments and grabbed him by the shoulder hard. Let go of the case! Now! But Achi reflexively hunched lower. What the hell are you doing, man? Why'd you come back here? Just come with me. We have to get out of here. Look, you need to run. I can't move. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Kano squatted down and looked Achi right in the eye. Okay, you can't move on your own, so I'm going to help you move. And unless you want to kill me too, you'd better cooperate. Damn it. Don't be a fool, man! The strength ebbed from Achi's hands. Wasting no time, Kano pulled the case away, then slipped an arm around Achi's side. Their legs got entangled as Kano dragged Achi to his feet. Come on, run! The detective shouted when they were upright at last. They needed to get as far away as possible in the few seconds they had left. Kano didn't know how big the explosion was going to be. Palmer said it would be enough to blow the whole area to smithereens, though. And there had been true terror in his voice when he said it. He just needed to keep moving. Keep running as far as their legs would take them. Achi! Hitomi shrieked. Nope, that didn't work. Nope, that didn't work. Wait, no. Let's try A. Well, the cool mind and a fiery spirit. And the more heated the situation was, the more he needed to stay cool. He could feel the muscles in his legs begin to stiffen. He did his best not to slow his racing heartbeat. As his mind sought desperately for a way out of the situation. But his eyes remained fixed on Achi, holding that bomb in his arms. Knowing that it could explode at any moment made it almost impossible to think. The harder he tried to calm himself, the more his panic grew. He cursed himself for not leaping into action, should have acted before thinking. It's the only thing he was good at. Then he felt the hairs rise up on the back of his neck. White soup was pouring from our approaching minivan. The vehicle teetered to a stop along the shoulder of the road. Still, the smoke spilled out, rolling from a partly opened window. Kano could feel a strange chill in the air. Is that? Instinctively, he rushed towards it. Liquid nitrogen! Dry ice! The dry ice machine! Oh, thank you! Thank you, Lord! Peering through the minivan's windows, he saw a clunky box-shaped device in the back. It was rumbling fiercely, spitting out an unended mound of white clumps. A dry ice machine. Hey! Connor yelled, banging on the door. Open up! By freezing a bomb that used an electronic activation trigger, it was possible to kill the battery cell and deactivate the detonator. The explosive ordnance unit used liquid nitrogen, but maybe dry ice could work as well. There were 3 men inside the vehicle. Kano shouted at the one in the driver's seat. I need to borrow that machine! Huh? The man replied in a lethargic drawl. No way, man. We haven't even paid this thing off yet. There was no time to explain or negotiate. Kano was just going to have to take it by force. Hold it right there! Hey, Minonikawa! How you doing? Another man appeared suddenly in front of the vehicle. The pushy fellow Kano had run into at the scene of the explosion. You guys are with that Wandering Angels Theater troupe, yeah? He said to the van's occupants. He pointed at the dry ice machine. That thing's defective. The guy from the electronics store said he'd refund your deposit. Huh? For real? Yeah, he told me to tell you that the machine has been recalled. We'll bring it back for you. We'll bring it back for you. So hurry up and open the door. Yeah, okay. The newcomer helped the three men unload the dry ice machine from the minivan, then turned to Kano. Here. Hurry up and take it, he shouted. Right, thanks. Kano wasn't sure what was going on, but he took the machine and ran, pushing it ahead of him across the pavement. Achi! Hitomi wailed, tears in her eyes. The detective flew right past her, trailing a billowing plume of white smoke in his wake. Please let me make it in time. Please let me make it in time. Please let me make it in time. Kano let loose a wild yell. He ran as fast as his leg would take him toward Achi and the bomb. The final to be continued. I'm not stopping until I finish this. I don't know how powerful this bomb is, but please, God, let my body be enough to protect the people of Shibuya and to protect Hitomi. Achi squeezed his eyes tightly shut. I'm sorry, Suzune. Looks like I won't be able to keep visiting you in the hospital anymore. You'll forgive me, though. Alright? I stuck it through to the end, just like you told me to. I didn't call it quits part way through. And so whatever you do, you can't let that disease beat you. Don't you dare let it beat you. Achi drew a deep breath as he finished the solitary little prayer. He couldn't have more than a few seconds left to go. Achi! It was Hitomi. Damn it! He was glad to hear that her voice was the last thing in this world he'd ever hear. Or so he thought. Achi, bring the bomb over here! That wasn't Hitomi's voice. Achi opened his eyes and saw Kano racing toward him, pushing some big, weird piece of machinery. The detective flipped open the machine's cover to reveal a huge mound of dry ice. Stick it in here! Flash freezing the timer ought to stop it! Achi did as he was told, shoving the etch case into the dry ice. Kano helped him pile more dry ice on top of it. Let's hope that's enough, Kano exclaimed. He looked like a man desperate for a miracle. They could see the timer displayed through a gap in the frozen hydrogen, still counting down. Was this not going to work? Achi and Kano held their breaths. She felt a hand firmly clutching her own, as she hastily returned to consciousness. This hand. Whose is it? My father's? Maria's eyelids slowly drifted open. Maria, you're all right now. Her father was indeed beside her, holding her hand. A surprising warmth radiated from his slender, bony palm. Dad? She was lying on the sofa. She craned her neck to look around, still trying to process what was going on. There were several monitors set up around the room. Where are we? At my laboratory. You were infected with the virus, but I've given you the antiviral. You don't have anything to worry about. He squeezed Maria's hand even more tightly. It hurts. Right, sorry. Also, it eased up the pressure on his daughter's hand, but he didn't let go entirely. This feels so strange. Maria muttered, staring up at the ceiling. I wonder why. What does? Haven't you held my hand? I used to hold your hand like this when we'd go on walks together, when you were little. I doubt you remember that, though. Maria considered. It was true, she didn't have any clear memory of her father holding her hand like this, and yet the touch of her father's palm felt distantly familiar. Gently, she squeezed back. It's been a while, hasn't it? I mean, me looking at you in the eye while I'm talking to you? It's only because I didn't look you in the eye. Also on his head. I'm so sorry, he said. Please forgive me. I never meant to hurt you like I did. Wait, hold on. Maria was taken aback. I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean, hurt me? Back on that rainy day. Also, I told Maria about the day she'd run away from home. About how he'd known where she'd gone but hadn't gone to find her. About how he'd given in to his anger and struck her once as she came back home. When he'd finished, he hung his head once more. I'm so sorry. I've been such a terrible father. Maria cracked an impish smile. Oh yeah, I guess that did happen. Also a frown. You know, she said, I'd totally forgotten about that. Till you mentioned it just now, I mean. No, I can't believe that. Also, I replied, the way I hurt you, He sounded so disappointed in himself. Dad, it's not like I can let myself dwell on each and every detail of my childhood. I mean, in the 19 or so years I've been alive, I've been hurt in lots of different ways. The child experienced so much more than what her parents knew. That was what growing up was all about. It was a happy thing, but also a little bit sad. Also, I was visibly grappling with his feelings. You see, he said, I guess you have gone through much pain. Well, yeah, but there have been more things that were fun and happy. You see, it's some of all those things that have made me who I am today. So please, don't worry so much about the past. I see. Dad? You keep saying I see. Stop it. Sorry. It's just... This is also difficult to say. Also, I was trying and failing to hold back his tears. Maria wasn't quite sure what those tears were for, but she felt a prickle of embarrassment. Shyly, she looked away, and her eyes alighted on one of the monitors. The screen showed a view from outside the lab. Who are those people? She asked, pointing. Osoa looked, and his eyes widened in shock. 3 people with guns were facing off with one another. Maria recognized one of them. Tatano, the man with the cane. Why are those 2 pointing guns at your friend? Why are those 2 pointing guns at your friend? Osoa's voice was shaking. My friend? What do you mean? The one you met when we went to the Middle East. You know, Kanan. Osoa switched the monitor to show her a different angle. A close-up of the young woman's face appeared on the screen. Maria was at a loss for words. That certainly wasn't Kanan. It was the girl who'd come to tell Maria that Hitomi was going to be kidnapped. Kanan's friend. It had happened 3 days earlier. While Maria was on her way home from campus, a girl approached her, telling her she was a friend of Kanan. Kanan asked me to pass along a message, she said. Then she showed Maria a video recording. The video quality was quite poor, and the voice indistinct. There's a terrorist who's after the antiviral agent your father's developing. Maria listened in shock as the message continued. The terrorist plan was already in motion, and Hitomi had been infected with a killer virus. Your father used the antiviral to save Hitomi, but the terrorist planned on that. I'll spare you the details, but there's a way to extract the antiviral from Hitomi's blood. Stealing the drug from the laboratory directly is too problematic. The terrorist intends to get it directly from your sister. Hitomi is certain to be kidnapped sometime in the next few days. And so I have something to ask you. I'd like you to get kidnapped in her place. Since you're twins, it would be possible for you to trade places without the kidnappers realizing it. I gave the girl who's passing along this message a necklace outfitted with a small GPS beacon. Make sure you wear the necklace. Switch it on, and it'll allow me to keep tabs on your location. I promise I'll come rescue you. Please help me. This is the only way we can keep the antiviral and Hitomi safe. The video ended, and the girl handed Maria a necklace with an orange pendant and showed her the hidden switch on the back. Kanan's coming to Japan? Madi asked. She's already here. She's ready to risk her life for this mission. Risk her life? Madia stared uneasily. So, this terrorist who's after the antiviral drug, is it Alphard? The girl looked shocked. You know about Alphard? Kanan told me that taking down Alphard is her purpose in life. But Alphard has ties to the CIA, so it's hard for Kanan to get any good leads. That's true. Which reminds me, you should have this. The girl held out a photograph. This man's dangerous. Stay away from him. He's an ally of Alphard. Madia did her best to burn the man's image into her mind. Alright, the girl said. I've passed along everything Kanan wanted me to tell you. What you do next is up to you. So, wait. What the heck has been going on while I've been asleep? Also, I recoiled from the ferocity on his daughter's face. That Kanan girl thought of a way to save you. He went on to explain the plan to get the antiviral out of the locked-down laboratory. Once again, Madia stared at the monitor. As she eyed Kanan's friend, another memory from before she blacked out drifted to the surface. Suddenly, it dawned on Madia what this girl was planning. She pretended to be Kanan in order to get into the lab, she said, scowling at the image on the monitor. Also, I looked at the screen and then at his daughter's face. Well, then who in the world is she? Madia already had the answer. There was no doubt about it. That girl was Alphard. The instant she realized that she knew they were in danger. If Alphard managed to infiltrate the lab, there was no way she'd be satisfied with simply getting her hands on the antiviral. She sowed ruin everywhere she went. Is something wrong? Also, I asked uneasily. Madia, what is it? Madia's mind was racing. She spoke her thoughts out loud. She's going to kill you so the drug can't be recreated. No, that's not thorough enough. She's going to destroy this whole facility. But how? Vague possibilities tumbled through her mind, but she couldn't be sure what the terrorists might be planning. She gritted her teeth in frustration. Don't worry, Osva said. I don't know who that girl is, but right now she's outside the lab. There's no way she can kill me or plant a bomb in here or anything. Yeah, I know. Madia gave a tiny nod, but something gnawed at the back of her mind. Make sure you wear the necklace. Hurriedly, Madia took hold of the pendant that hung around her neck. As soon as she did, she felt a chill run up her spine. She went back over the details of Alphard's plan as her father had explained it, and then finally she understood. I've got it! Oswa straightened up. You've got what? I need to get out of there where those three are. Don't be absurd! I have to go! Oswa peered closely at his daughter's face. Words weren't going to stop her. And as he realized that, his own face stiffened with determination. Alright, but I'm going with you. I can't let you rush into danger all by yourself. Thank you, Dad. Madia tried to get up from the sofa, but she was struck by a wave of vertigo and her knees buckled. You alright? Also, I caught her by the arm. This is probably a side effect of the antiviral. You shouldn't push yourself too much. Madia looked up at her father's anxious face and shook her head. Don't worry, I'll be okay. Her body was weak with lethargy, her mind trapped in a disorienting haze. Every step was a monumental effort, but she clenched her jaw and forced herself onward, making her way down the laboratory hallway. A whirlwind of anger and sadness spurred her onward. Alphard was masquerading as Kanan. The cruel truth was all too clear. The terrorists would never have been able to get away with the deception if Kanan were still alive. Which means that Kanan must be... Madia fought to hold back her tears. It was too early to cry just yet. That could wait until after she'd put a stop to Alphard's plan. Using her rage to suppress her sorrow, she shoved open the door in front of her. That isn't Kanan! Madia's voice exploded into the silence of the standoff. I doubt we're getting better testimony than that, Stanley said, his gun still at the ready. There's no talking your way out of things this time. The expression on Alphard's face didn't change. She stood still, a mannequin without a soul. What did you do to Kanan? Maria demanded, marching unsteadily toward the terrorist. Maria, stay back, Osawa exclaimed. She ignored him. Hey, don't get any closer, Tatano barked. He looked exhausted, on the verge of collapse. Answer me, Maria cried, still advancing. What happened to Kanan? But still, Alphard said nothing. Stanley, too, began edging toward her. It doesn't matter what you ask, he said. She won't tell you anything. Bit by bit, he inched closer. He was going to try and take her down. Let me turn your question around, Alphard said abruptly. What do you think? Maria paused, confused. What do I think about what? What do you think happened to Kanan? Corners of her lips twisted up, shaping a mirthless smile. You killed her, didn't you? Maria's words came out as a whisper. What was that? I couldn't quite hear you. You killed Kanan, didn't you? This time Maria cried out with a biting fury. Alphard snickered. She's provoking me, Maria thought, forcing herself to swallow her rage. She couldn't let herself get caught up in Alphard's game, or her anger would spill out of control. Why are you laughing? By force of will, Maria made her voice firm and steady. Because I'm guessing you weren't expecting me to show up here. Alphard raised an eyebrow ever so slightly. This thing here? It's a bomb, isn't it? Maria held out the necklace. What? Stanley furrowed his brow. Of course. Even if we managed to catch you here, you'd still be able to destroy the lab. Still, the smile remained on Alphard's face. She seemed to enjoy watching the others figure out her intentions. But you can't trigger the bomb with me standing this close to you, can you? Maria locked eyes with Alphard. Unless you're prepared to sacrifice yourself? She stood like an image of bravery, while on the inside her apprehension threatened to tear her apart. She could feel her heart thudding so furiously that she thought it might explode. Cold sweat trickled down her spine. Only her rage at Kanan's murder kept her from backing down. Go ahead and blow yourself up if that's what you want, she said, but you'll die with it. Your death will mean nothing, but not mine. My death will avenge Kanan's. Silence fell out of the laboratory gates. Stanley and Tatano stood frozen, their guns still trained on Alphard. Both men were ready to pull the trigger at the slightest provocation. Just how long had they been standing there, staring one another down? The passage of time seemed to slow, seconds drawn into hours. Osawa swallowed audibly. Finally, Alphard tossed her gun onto the pavement and held up both her hands in surrender. Stanley wasted no time, springing forward to secure her. He gave her a thorough pat down from behind. He removed a small device that looked like a detonator from one of her pockets. On your knees. Alphard did as she was told. Good. Now, hands behind your head. Try anything funny and I will shoot. Without a word, Alphard placed her hands on the back of her head, fingers laced together. What are you playing at? Stanley ground disdainfully. Finally realized she could only push her luck so far. She responded with a faint snicker. It's not my policy to resist when things are hopeless. Her tone was detached. Her intentions unreadable. Good. That'll make this easy. Stanley kept the barrel pointed at Alphard's head. This is for my brother. The words hung in his throat unspoken. A surge of emotion coursed through him. Just a tiny bit more pressure from his index finger and he could put a bullet right through Alphard's head. His long journey would finally reach its conclusion. But although he had wished for this moment more than anything, his finger did not move. If he pulled the trigger now, would that truly be the end? His mind reeled at the implications. Tatano watched Stanley closely, eventually letting out a tiny sigh of relief. They were in this together after all. Now they just needed to be careful not to let their guard down. He kept one eye on Alphard as he went to pick up the gun she discarded. But he was too late. The gun was gone. This is for Kanan! Maria had lunged forward, snatching up the gun. Maria, no! He also cried. What are you thinking? She ignored her father, taking aim at Alphard's forehead. Kanan's dead. And you're gonna pay. Smoldering rage, she fought back to hold she'd fought to hold back blazed with renewed fury. "Maria," Stanley said calmly, "put the gun down." He had nothing but words to stop her. There was no telling what Alphard might do if he took his gun off her. What will this accomplish? What will this accomplish? He asked, keeping his tone as level as possible. Maria's face remained awash with anger. "Maria," her father pleaded. "Please don't do this." Tatano took a step forward. "Go on, hand me the gun," he said. "Stay back!" Maria's arms trembled as she aimed the gun. Everyone stood frozen, not even daring to breathe. The slightest wrong move might bring disaster. Silence roared. "I don't care," Alphard sneered. "If you want to shoot, then shoot. You do want to avenge Kanan, don't you?" "Yes. Yes, I do." Maria tightened her grip on the gun. Memories of her friend drifted through her mind. To Maria, born into peace, meeting Kanan had been like touching a world beyond her own, a far more complicated world. Kanan had blood on her hands from the time she was a little girl, a walking contradiction of cruelty and childishness. And yet, she lived her life according to her own unshakable beliefs. Meeting her had made Maria think hard about her own identity. What did it mean to be Japanese? No, that wasn't the question. What did it mean to be Maria Osawa? That was the crux of it all. They'd been able to find common ground, despite differing ideals, because both possessed an unshakable sense of self. Maria made her decision. Maria's anger dissipated like smoke in a sudden wind. The tension seeped from her body, and she carefully lowered the gun. "What's the matter?" Alphard smirked. "Why won't you shoot?" Her eyes blazed with contempt for Maria's naivete. "No, I'm not being naive," Maria told herself. "Do unto others as they have done to you. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. What does this recurring pattern of retribution really accomplish? It's just an endless cycle of hatred. That's why I'm not going to fight. Because I'm not like Kanan." Tears flooded from her eyes. "I'm not like Kanan. But people who are different can still be friends. And I'm going to honor her friendship by not taking revenge. No matter what happens, I'm not going to hurt anyone," Maria said. "Maybe that's not very realistic, but this is my fight. And I'll fight the way I choose." She wiped away her tears. For the first time, Maria felt that she understood Kanan. If she'd been able to see her just one more time, she would have been able to speak her mind without fear. I could show Kanan the true me. And maybe then we'd be friends for real. But that wasn't going to happen. Not anymore. Maria handed the gun to Tatano, then looked up at the nighttime sky. In the distance, she could faintly hear the sound of police sirens. Not one star could be seen in the sky over Shibuya. A black car of foreign make arrived at the laboratory and pulled up to the curb. Stanley's superior, Gordon, emerged from the back. A few of his men followed and promptly placed Alphard in handcuffs. "Well done," Gordon said. Stanley gave him a slight nod. "I'll be taking Alphard back to headquarters. You can finish up here." "Understood, sir." Gordon shoved Alphard into the backseat and slid in alongside her, and the car drove off. "What was that just now?" Tatano asked Stanley. "My boss." "Sorry, but we'll be taking Alphard into custody." "You will, huh?" Tatano frowned, but decided not to press the point. They put a stop to Alphard's plan, and they had saved Maria's life. That was enough for him. Maybe it even began to atone for what he'd done to Hitomi. Kano, Suzune, Kotone, Tatano pictured all their faces. Perhaps in the end he managed to become worthy of their respect. It's all over. Stanley spoke under his breath. His gaze locked on the car taking Alphard away. The black cloud that hung over his heart had yet to lift, but he knew that today was the day he had finally put revenge aside. No longer would memories of his brother bring only sorrow. This'll do. Won't it, Frank? Abruptly, Maria's phone rang in Stanley's pocket. That's right, I meant to give this back to you. He handed the phone to Maria. I wonder who's calling. Maria picked up. She could hardly believe it when she heard the voice on the line. Brisk, yet girlish, with a daredevil ring. A voice that had been burned into her mind since the day she met its owner. No, it can't be. She'd been sure that she'd never hear that voice again. In an instant, Maria's face was damp with tears of joy. Thank goodness! Oh, thank goodness! Kanon! Maria couldn't hold back her sobs. The tears kept coming and coming. She never wept with joy like this in her life. Two seconds. Achi held his breath. He could no longer feel the seconds ticking by. The numbers on display were changing more and more slowly. But still, he watched in fear. 2 seconds. It was impossible not to fixate on the countdown. 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds. Kano and Achi continued to stare at the timer. 2 seconds. It had stopped. The timer had actually stopped. We did it! Achi dropped to his knees with a cry of triumph. The rest of the Shibuya Scramble burst into cheers. You are one reckless guy, you know that? Kano held his hand out. Achi grinned up at him. That makes 2 of us. The two clasped hands fervently, their handshake conveying more than any words could have. Achi! Oh, Susumu! Damn it, I'm getting every time! Susumu came rushing over. You did it, man! I knew you could do it! Two bumped fists. Weren't just me. Could have never done it without you guys' help. Susumu smiled bashfully. Hey Susumu, take care of SOS for me. You got it. Susumu looked him squarely in the eye. Achi gave a little nod and the two solemnly bumped fists again. Suddenly there was a blinding flash. Achi spun around to see Chiaki there, beaming happily, as it had her digital camera ready for another shot. Hey everyone, gather up! Minorikawa called out to Achi and his pals. You guys are the heroes of Shibuya! Photo time, everyone! Chiaki said. Get ready! The young men struck a pose together. Wait, her too! Minorikawa ushered Hitomi over to stand with Achi. Hitomi. Achi flashed her a sheepish grin. It was all thanks to Hitomi that he'd been able to do what he had done. Keeping Shibuya safe. Keeping his promise to Suzune. Hitomi had been his inspiration for it all. There were so many things he wanted to say, but he couldn't get the right words out. Achi, Her cheeks were damp with tears. Hey now, young lady, Minorikawa called. No crying now. Come on, show us a smile. He struck a goofy pose beside Chiaki. At last, the smile returned to Hitomi's face. It really is the best. Hitomi looked up at Achi in confusion. Your smile, he said. It's the best. I don't care what anyone else says. He spoke so earnestly that Hitomi couldn't help but smile even more. Okay, here we go, people. Get your best faces on. At Minorikawa's signal, everyone let out a joyous victory cry. Come on, guys, Susumu shouted. Let's lift Achi up where everyone can see him. The members of SOS let out another roar. Huh? No, you don't gotta do that, guys. Hey, cut it out! But Achi had already been swallowed by the enthusiastic throng. Heave ho! Heave ho! Heave ho! There in the middle of the scramble, Achi was being hailed as a hero. Kano looked on with a satisfied smile. What they had achieved together was nothing less than a miracle. It had taken a lot of luck, and more than a few coincidences for them to stop the bomb. Coincidences? Kano muttered to himself. No, that wasn't right. This was something different altogether. Fate. That's what it was. And not just one person's fate. The destinies of several people had collided, gathering momentum until coincidence became inevitability, and Shibuya was saved. The raucous crowd tossed Achi high into the air again and again. As a plainclothes detective, Kano would probably never be showered with adulation quite like that. Well, that was alright. A detective's duty was to ensure the safety of the people. He didn't put his life on the line so that he could be a hero. Just seeing all those smiles, that was good enough for him. Kano only needed the approval of one person, and that was Rumi. Rumi, I hope she managed to get out of Shibuya okay. Suddenly worried, Kano pulled out his cell phone. There was a whole bunch of things he wanted to tell her. He couldn't share the whole story, police rules wouldn't allow it, but he wanted to let her know as much as he could. That the kidnapping case had been resolved safely, for instance. That he'd learned about the tortured past of the detective he so admired. That his partner was going to pull through. That he managed to finally talk to her father. That he put his life on the line to save Shibuya from danger. Rumi would listen quietly to the very end, and then, Kano thought, he knew just what she'd say. Short and sweet, in that gentle voice of hers. Good job. Rumi, hello? There was no response. Do they have a bad connection? Hello? Rumi, are you there? Can you hear me? Look, the case is closed now. If you're still somewhere close to Shibuya, I'd love to see you if I can. You want to see me, huh? Don't you have a mountain of paperwork you should be doing first? Oh, that was Shizuo's. The girl voice was Shizuo's. Oh, well, you see, Father, I told you not to call me that. Shizuo barked so loudly over the phone that Kano's ear rang. Right, no, of course. And yes, I'll do my job. I just wanted to check and make sure that Rumi was alright. Looks like I misjudged you. Maybe you are the kind of guy who will blow off work to go meet with a girl. Dad, hey! Kano heard Rumi's voice cry out with exasperation. Come on, let me have my phone. I know that work is important, sir, Kano said hurriedly, but Rumi is even more important to me. He felt his panic rising. After all that had happened, he didn't want Shizuo to end up with a bad impression. Oh, be quiet. If you want to see Rumi, you can do it once you finish your work. Well, but I'm not sure when that's going to be. I waited on you today a lot longer than I wanted. So at this point, I don't care how long it takes you. We can wait all night if we have to. Shizuo let out a peculiar sigh. And then you and I can talk again about you marrying my daughter. Huh? Before Kano could be sure he'd heard that right, Shizuo hung up. Huh? What? He stared at the phone, his mind reeling. And then he was hit with a veritable explosion of joy. Yes! Kano leapt into the air and shouted with delight, his voice echoing through the Shibuya streets. Once the crowd had put Achi back down on his feet, he rushed over to Hitomi. So, Hitomi. Yes? Hitomi, there's so much stuff I want to talk to you about. So many things I want to tell you about. He gazed into her face. But Suzune, he didn't know how to continue. Hitomi smiled warmly. She understood. Go on, Achi. Go see your sister. There's nobody here in trouble that you need to rescue now. Thank you. I better get going then, to see Suzune. Achi broke away from his circle of friends and headed out of the Shibuya Scramble. Strangely enough, his leg didn't hurt too much now. Despite all that had happened, he felt invigorated, as if he was just walking to a brand new day. Achi! Hitomi called after him. I'll see you again, won't I? Achi nodded vigorously. Of course! Just come to Shibuya. You'll find me. He'd been born and raised in Shibuya, but after today, he loved the place more than ever. that was 428 Shibuya Scramble. It was great. The story kept me on the edge of my seat the whole way. I loved the characters, Maria being my favorite, even after she was done being Tama. The music was pretty catchy, especially the music they played in between time blocks. The actors were amazing, mainly in terms of what I saw, because I didn't speak at all. Everyone was so animated, it was great. There's a final scene after the credits roll, so stick around just a bit longer. Okay, now that this is finished, I can move on to a game I've been dying to play since I played the demo of it. You'll see. Till then, this is the Gamer Girl, signing off. Bye-bye. Gordon and Alphard sat in the back seat as the car sped along the highway. Here. Gordon tossed a handcuffed key onto the seat beside him. What happened down at the scramble? Alphard asked, picking up the key and unlocking her cuffs. Leland Palmer was arrested by the Japanese police, and the bomb in the attaché case was defused, apparently. Still, Palmer shouldn't pose a problem once we get him into CIA custody. I see. Much obliged. You really got yourself backed into a corner, though, didn't you? Gordon said. Yeah. I was only able to accomplish half of what I intended. Half. Alphard produced a vial from her pocket. It was filled with red liquid. Is that Hitomi's blood? Gordon asked. Indeed. I managed to acquire the antiviral. But when? Gordon peered at her in bewilderment. When I blew up the minivan? In the dim light of the vehicle, Alfred's eyes shone darkly, like those of a wounded animal. Extracting the blood from Hitomi while she was unconscious had been a simple matter. Saving the girl's life had been more than just a means of ensuring her trust. Alphard had been looking for the right moment to carry out the extraction. Total secrecy was essential. If it became public knowledge that the drug existed, and that some of it had been stolen, the value of the UA virus would plummet. Our primary objective here was to destroy the research facility. Still, getting our hands on the antiviral was better than nothing. Well done as always, Alphard.